Greetings. I'm Nathaniel Guest, and I'm the president of the Colebrookdale Railroad Preservation Trust. This week's update is not about our railroad per se, but about another project we're working on here at the Trust that will help tell the story of railroading here in the Secret Valley and across the United States in the Golden Age. The telegraph, literally and figuratively, grew up alongside the railroad. The telegraph pole was a common element in the railroad landscape. Just as the railroad conquered space and time in the movement of goods and people, telegraphs conquered space and time in the communication of information. The telegraph was a long-distance communication system where messages are carried by electrical signals on wires. It involves transmitting coded messages, most famous being the Morse code, through a wire by the use of electrical pulses to a receiver. At the receiver's end, the message is decoded. Telegraphers stationed in depots along the railroad line received train orders from a centrally located dispatcher and reported back on train movements. Telegraph train orders would be written out on paper and handed up to the crews of passing trains. This practice greatly increased the efficiency of single-track railroads like the Colebrookdale by enabling two trains traveling in opposite directions to use the same track at the same time. The ability of local depot operators to keep track of the actual time of train movements was particularly important in the era before the establishment of time zones. The telegraph was also a means of communication for local communities, a kind of communal email, text messaging system, and associated press outlet all in one. Telegraph operators in each community were the point of contact for breaking regional and world news. They also delivered personal messages. The Colebrookdale's telegraph operator in Boyertown, Claude Kroll, was a local celebrity. As was true for operators in many communities, Mr. Kroll was so beloved, his desk and telegraph key were preserved in the local historical society here in Boyertown. The Colebrookdale's telegraph system was used to relay news of many locally important events, including the famous Rhodes Opera House fire and a runaway train here on the Colebrookdale in the 1920s. While our telegraph lines have been gone for many years, we're working to bring them back, at least in part. We rescued 3 telegraph poles from nearby Birdsboro, complete with wires and insulators, and are working to restore them. But we need your help. Do you have, or do you know of, any old telegraph pieces that we can use? We need insulators, the wooden pegs that hold the insulators to the cross pieces themselves, and associated hardware. If you have parts to donate, please get in touch with us. Thank you very much and see you next week.